What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the No Diet. My name is Ali.
And I'm Rena.
So, today we're going to be talking to you about the meat and potatoes, I guess, of our diet, really, which is basically the numbers, which is another very important part of how we're actually losing weight. So, the numbers that we're going to be sharing with you today are based on a sedentary person's lifestyle, which is basically how Rena and I were. We were not very active. Maybe once in a while we'll go on a small hike or something, but that's about it. Um, if you are an active person, we recommend that you add to these numbers, obviously, and please, make sure you consult a physician or a nutritionist, and don't just listen to a couple of people on the internet because we take no liability for anything, but just in case, got to put that out there.
So you definitely want to take into consideration your activity level in regards to these numbers that we're going to share with you. So basically, any number of calories you're burning throughout your activity or your exercise, you just want to add that number onto these numbers that we're sharing.
Correct.
So the main things that we're going to be talking about number-wise is calories, sugar, carbs, fat, and protein. So
In that order.
in that order, because we actually find that it is that order is the order of importance for us, at least the way that we found it to be most successful for this. So first and foremost, I just want to touch on how many calories, or actually rather, how much nutrition an average person should be getting a day to maintain their current weight. And again, please keep in mind that these are average numbers, so everybody's different, and it also depends on if you're a male or a female, your age. So these are just for a very average person, and these are average numbers.
Right.
So in order to maintain your weight, 2,000 calories a day is what you would need to maintain that. You also want to stay at around 300 grams of carbs. You want to stay at around 90 grams of sugar, which sounds like a lot, but that is what the
Is a lot.
average is. You also want to stay at no more than 70 grams of fat and 50 grams of protein.
Right. Now again, this is just to maintain your weight. If you're a normal person, all the averages.
I think it's important to mention, as most of you probably already do know, it does take 3,500 calories to burn 1 pound.
Just one.
Just one. So that means you have to be in a 3,500 caloric deficit in order to lose 1 pound of weight. These numbers are the same numbers that we use at our heaviest, and we still currently follow these numbers today. So no matter what your weight is, of course, like Ali said, you do have to take other things into consideration, but you should be successful no matter what weight range you are at or how much you're trying to lose.
Right.
So if you reduced your daily caloric intake by 500 calories, within 1 week, you should have lost 1 pound. And which is where you want to be, because ideally you don't want to be losing any more to 2 to 3 pounds a week to maintain long-term and permanent results.
Right.
So the first number we want to talk to you about is the calories. So calories, like we said, 2,000 is the number to maintain your current weight. The number that we found to be most successful to aid us in that weight loss is 1,200 to 1,500 calories
Per day.
per day.
Maximum. No more than that. If you want to lose weight.
For us, we tried to stay as close to 1,200 as possible, but we did allow us a range of 12 to 1,500. The next thing we want to talk to you about is sugar. So
Even though sugar is a carb, we look at sugar separately because sugar, we feel, is the enemy.
yes, so sugar we're going to have a whole thing on sugar later,
Yeah.
but it is definitely one of the worst things for you. So there are a lot of other substitutes out there in terms of things you can eat, but we're not going to get into that right now. So the number for sugar, we try to stay as close to zero as possible. Obviously, that's not reasonable or doable, really. So what we try to stay at is under 25 grams of sugar. We do allow ourselves to go up to 50, but if we do that one day, then we try to stay under 25 the next day. So if you can stay under 25 grams of sugar, that would be most ideal, but definitely don't go over 50. So the next number we want to talk about is carbs. It's 300 grams of carbs to maintain your current weight. The number that we found to help aid in weight loss was between 50 to 100 grams of carbs. So we try to stay as close to 50 or under 50 as possible per day. If we go up to 100, that's totally fine. But then if we do that one day, we try to compensate for that the next day and try to also stay at around 50, just like I mentioned before with the sugar. And also, speaking of carbs, you want to take into consideration your net carbs. It's not your full carbs. So when we say stay in a range of 50 to 100, we mean stay in a range of 50 to 100 net carbs. And in order to calculate your net carbs, all you want to do is take your carbs and minus the dietary fiber in there. So let's say you have 25 grams of carbs and 17 grams of dietary fiber, then you'd have 7 grams of net carbs. Next number would be the fat. So fat is not something that we really look into. We definitely are mindful about it, just like how we mentioned before, all these things are equally important.
Yep.
But if you're following the other things, you shouldn't have too much trouble automatically keeping your fat down. So that number that we like to stay at for fat is no more than 50 grams of fat for your full day.
Right.
50 grams also happens to be the number for protein that we like to stay at. So you definitely want to stay around that number, because if you have too much protein and you're not exercising, that'll definitely make you gain weight. But we found staying around 50 grams of protein is the most ideal number in order to be successful. So that being said, fat and protein are the two that I would say we're the most flexible with. So if you are a little above these numbers or a little below these numbers, it's not too serious, but definitely you want to pay attention to the first three that I mentioned. So the reason we came up with these numbers, not only do they help you to be successful to lose weight, but they also allow you to not deprive yourself and be able to stay on it and have long-term results. These numbers are not hard, fast numbers. That's why when we gave you the calorie range, we gave you from 1200 to 1500. We gave you the sugar from 25 to 50. We gave you the carbs from 50 to 100. These numbers are not meant to be so strict and to not make you beat yourself up if you go over 25 or 50 or whatever it is for that category. These are just goals that you want to stay at. So don't feel bad if you go over it. If you do go over it, that's okay, because then the next day, maybe you want to take in a little less in that category. You just want to be mindful throughout about all of these, because they're all kind of codependent of each other.
So just to reiterate what Rena's saying, these numbers are all just guidelines and stuff. Does not mean you have to stay, exactly to those numbers. Once in a while we might be bad, and by bad I may say that we might miss a meal, because we're too busy and end up at 800 calories, which is not good. But we also know that we didn't eat that much that day, so the next day we have to eat a little bit more. Um, we make our no bagels, which are great, great substitute to real bagels, but two of our little bagels have 50 grams of carbs in there, and that's pretty much all the carbs that we're going to eat that day. So at night we might have a bigger protein meal and definitely no carbs in there, and if we did happen to have some carbs that night, then the next day we're going to make sure we don't,
Have as
so,
many.
or as many, right? Exactly. But the thing is just to be mindful, know what you're putting in your body, and plan your meals that way. Don't and which said, don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work. It's okay. We made many mistakes along the way, and we lost weight throughout the whole thing.
Right. And again, they're all just ranges, and that's why you have that open range to stay in. And then just again, to mention, if you are active, you definitely want to add on to these numbers.
So that pretty much wraps up our video today about the numbers and why they're important. This Friday, we're going to be talking about sugar and all the good and all the bad, when there's pretty much no good to it. So be prepared that video you're going to learn a lot about why sugar is terrible and why we'll always say it is the enemy.
And why it's the number one thing. If you cut back on, you will lose weight.
Right. So stay tuned for that. We got a good one for you coming. Peace.
Bye.